Standard 3D PT. I did a previous video, and I'll include the card above, about Point E, which is an artificial intelligence system that will let you draw three-dimensional objects with text. And it's part of a family of AI systems, and the most recent popular one is ChatGPT. So I'm actually going to explore how ChatGPT could be used for teachers. Now, I should point out a few things. First off, ChatGPT is literally less than a month old at this point. Um, and so a lot of districts haven't even had a chance to even look at it. Really talk to your IT team and to your district administrator and legal about using the system at all. It can be useful, I think, for a lot of students, especially those with writing issues or output issues. And there's a lot of good things I think come of this. But on the other side, already there's been allegations in different magazines and online sites about students having this write papers for them or have other things basically do the students' work for them. And the scary thing is, this probably will defy and go around any cheat checking system you have in your district. So any of those programs that you're paying for, like Turnitin, that looks for Wikipedia copies, basically. This is unfortunately probably just going to bypass and blow through all that. I did a test yesterday, and pretty much if you want to, if you're worried about security and students' honesty in using this, the way it works is it scrapes information from not only Google and Wikipedia, but from multiple other sites as well. And the strength of it is it does go through and scrape information from multiple sources, and then what it produces, unfortunately, is unique enough that it could probably bypass any of those cheat check systems that your school district has. So this is going to be a huge issue that you'll have to address up front, is how your students are going to use it. Are you going to let your students use it, and how would you know what to look for? So with ChatGPT, first thing you'll have to do is actually set up an account. Now, they don't have a class account, so it's an individual account, and you will have to enter in a cell phone number. So when you do this, you'll have to think very carefully about your student privacy and other security considerations. Also, this OpenAI and ChatGPT is open source. It is not considered secure. So you should never have students' names, students' private info, or PII, personal identifying information on it at any time. Also, this is something where teachers cannot monitor it directly unless you do it through another monitoring system in your computer lab. And the legalities of doing this in terms of how they source the material and what your district will allow is right now really up in the air. Along with the whole OpenAI system, there's been a lot of questions about the ethics of using this because it sources from so many copyrighted works and so many private works. Also at issue is the fact that your students are not thinking for themselves with this. They're just figuring out how to prompt the AI to write what it wants, which is actually going to be a skill in the future, especially as the system advances more and more. However, it does take away I think it does take away some of that individuality and ability to kind of think for themselves. This is both a good and bad thing because for some people, they just can't get a complete idea out, or they can't express themselves in a way that's fluent and congruent for themselves. So something like this where they could type in a few sentences or a line for what they're thinking and seeing it fleshed out um, is a very good starter for them. And I think in the future, English teachers are going to love this because it's like, here's a story starter. How do you write it? How could how does the AI write it? How do you compare against them? So there's potential right there for a lot of English things, English teachers, to use this as an augment to creative writing lessons, grammar lessons, or other literacy tasks. And I'll show you some more things that you can do with this, but I'll keep going. So this has been amazing. I just started playing with ChatGPT last night, and right now I've been focusing on writing it for educators. But already it could do two major tasks for you that um, will very well save you a lot of time. First one is that's probably going to be more useful is writing lesson plans because I know I struggled with that, trying to figure out daily what I want to do. And Chat doesn't provide direct recommendations for any websites or any online resources like PHET or TPT. I don't know if there's a guardrail preventing that or if it's just such a broad thing that it just couldn't provide any recommendations. And I'll have to play with that more. But it did give me within 2 minutes, it did give me about 90% of a usable lesson plan that I could use to teach any content with my students. And when you have to write these every day, it gets very hard to do. And also, I've never really felt like administrators even focus on my lesson plans. They put them in folders and they'll grade one or two for evaluation, and then the rest of them I submit. I don't even feel like any administrators ever looked at them. So you could use ChatGPT to write your lesson plans, give those to the administrators, and get on with the rest of your um, teaching. 3, 2. So I played around with ChatGPT last night, and I asked it a really important question that a teacher would want. Can it write tests or worksheets? And as it turns out, it can generate questions based on a given topic or concept, and you do have to provide some guidance to that. And I'll show you some examples next. And you always have to review the test questions, make sure they're going to be okay for your class and that they're actually accurate. I haven't hit any accuracy issues yet with content, but I could see where it would be possible to write some weird questions that might not work. And so the example it gives here is provide, well, so when I asked the ChatGPT about test questions, it gave the following advice. Provide a clear topic or concept and tell me the topic or concept you want to practice. Review and edit the generated questions and consider formatting and layout, including the number of questions, difficulty, and other instructions. And test and review this before you actually do it. It also tends to expand upon itself when it gives this kind of advice. So it's also important to keep in mind that tests should be part of a comprehensive learning plan. Other types of assessment may be more effective for students to help learn and retain information. So yes, teachers, instead of trying to rewrite tests or search Google or teacher pay teachers for pre-made tests, this will actually could actually write a simple test in just a few minutes. Now, right now, you can't directly put this into any sort of LMS like Blackboard or Canvas but it's easy enough to just copy and paste this into a document. So next step is I'll actually show you some math tests, some different tests that you can write with this, and go from there. So for test, this is going to be a powerful part where you can write tests for your class very quickly, and also um, just save yourself a lot of time and brain power at the end of the day. That being said, always, always, always check the test before it goes out. Never just administer it blind. And always, if you always plan to use this, use it from the start of the lesson all the way through to the end. Because if you change the style on your students or change the type of questions, then that's going to create a lot of issues. So use this for a pre-test, post-test. Um, have a quick way to put this into your learning management system, LMS, because right now you can't directly export this, but you can easily copy and paste it and put it into any LMS system, teacher paid teachers, anything like that directly. Now, test format wise, multiple choice, true false, matching, fill in blank, short answer, essay, and performance task. So that would be performance tasks would be great for like lab stations or STEM stations. You could do multiple choice matching, true false, fill in blank, short answer, and you could also have it generate the answer key. So I'm actually going to go through next and do a series of tests, show you how those are set up, and how to generate some of those. So now that we have a list of the type of tests it could do any of the basic formats, plus it could actually combine them, which is what you should always do when you have something like a midterm or final test or a unit test. You shouldn't rely on any one format of test like multiple choice only or true false only. You always want your students to display a full expanse of knowledge. So not only just click on a fact, but also what's the correct vocabulary word? What is the general idea? And I'll walk you through how to do some of these tests, and I'll kind of I'll cover every area, content area like STEM, language, science, math, reading, writing, and then I'll make a couple extra um, full tests as examples. And if you'd like to see the examples more in depth, I'll have this lesson available online on Teacher Paid Teachers, link below. So it gave, always make sure what you're asking for is clear and concise. So you want to give it prompts like 10 questions on math for addition at whatever. And I haven't seen anything about a grade level, so you'll probably want to be a little specific if you're looking for just that. But you'll like the results when I do that. I'll show you what I mean. The next test I'm going to write is a quick reading test on, I have to think of a book. Quick reading test on a book, but it's going to be 10 multiple choice questions. So let's see, book. 10 questions. Is on So here's your exit ticket or a quick lesson reading quiz at the end just to check for understanding. And it took less than 2 minutes to generate that test. So that's where ChatGPT is really valuable, is instead of trying to search for it or find it on Google or try and find old lesson plans for it, you could just have it write a multiple choice test right here. So that's a remarkable thing to be able to do a quiz like that. Now, again, you still have to copy and paste it in, but you could do this in any of the formats, LMS, Scantron, anything like that that you have available. So I had it write 10 true-false questions about the sun. So I pulled those up, but it did a couple things that you have to watch out for. It put the answer at the end of the sentence, as well as in an answer key below. So it may still be trying to interpret what format to have this, and it may not understand that you're copying and pasting this into an LMS as a teacher. So this is where you really have to watch out for a possible trap. Make sure you don't accidentally give your students the answer up front. Um, and always check the questions before you hand them out. That being said, this would be really easy to implement and export to like a Scantron sheet or a multiple choice. So the next one is a matching test that I'll also kind of do the history of the atom. And so asked it for a matching test about the history of the atom, 10 questions. And it looks like a fill in the blank here, but it actually gives a list next to it. So you could pull this list, put that on your matching column. And it seems to give the answers in two ways here. It gives it by the letter and by the actual answer. This is actually great because you could do this a few different ways. You could put the scientist pictures in the test itself. You could have students select it based on that or just on going through A through J. Um, and it seems like they're getting better about including the answers. And the way they do it is they just list it here in this big block. So I asked it to write a multiplication math test, double digits, 10 questions, in a fill in the blank format. And so it gave me all these answers, gave me 10 questions, and this time it actually produced an answer key as well. In the past, I've had to ask for the answers to this question, but this is pretty nice test right here because it does have the students read the correct terms, so the product of 23 and 45, and gives them space for an answer. Now, remember, you'd have to copy and paste this either onto a worksheet or into an LMS and have the students fill it out that way. If you do that, I can tell you from experience, make really, really sure you never copy the answers into the same system or into the same spot. I had a case where I copied a PDF worksheet. The front side was the worksheet, and back side had the answers. So I salvaged it by saying you had to show your work and you could check on the back. But be very, very careful that you don't put the answers in with your questions when you do this. So when I asked it to write 5 short answer questions about the Dadaist movement, it took about 3 minutes. This is probably one of the longer ones to render. Um, where it came up with these questions as well as an example answer. And these answers are probably written for more high school or college level classes. but it does provide all the answers there as well. So the short answer one, I've got the feeling that the way it sourced this was more from the Wikipedia or art college or art college websites where it actually asked and had these as some sort of test. It'd be interesting to see how many of these are actually pulled from some sort of test database set in ChatGPT. Something I noticed, this again shows that the AI is imperfect when it comes to doing things like this. I don't know if I hit a Dadaist joke or some sort of meta joke on this, or if there was just honestly something within the AI on this, but it repeated the number one for all the questions. So if I had copy and paste that, that would cause some confusion with students. So again, just watch what you're putting in, make sure the answers are correct, as well as the numbering and other formatting issues. So the last test format I'll look at is the essay question. And I wanted to flip it and make it a little bit of a meta argument and to see what ChatGPT would say about itself. Now, my experience so far has been if you try and complement it or work with it in as a person, it will remind you again as a guardrail that it's an AI system. I didn't quite hit that with this question, but I asked it to write an essay question about the use of AI in schools. And it gives you the prompt here. Discuss the potential benefits and drawbacks of using AI in education, and how might AI be used in schools, and what are the ethical considerations that need to be taken into account when implementing AI. So that's a good deep question for this. And what's interesting, and this is actually going to be really helpful for a lot of students who need some guidance, this will also help you as a teacher, because if you provide this guidance, you can kind of direct them to a general answer that at very least will have some continuity and some semblance of the content within it. And it provides you here with these points. So you can actually take these points and put them on the board or in the test to provide guidance for how you want the students to answer. Um, so some potential benefits include personalized learning, enhanced efficiency, improved assessment and feedback. Drawbacks include bias algorithms, which can be an issue in this. I haven't seen much with that. And the loss of human interaction and creativity. Potential for job displacement. I actually think in terms of jobs, this is going to change a lot of fields, and this is going to enable a lot of work from home. Because instead of coming to an office to try and write copy or do anything like that, you'll be getting AI to prompt it and work through all the kind of more mundane tasks. Adaptive learning software, virtual tours, or graded systems. Teachers are going to love any graded system. Adaptive learning is going to be really helpful. Ethical considerations, fair and unbiased treatment for all students. I have a lesson for machine learning that I'll include here. And it is possible very easily to introduce bias into AI. It's just how we put in guardrails to protect against that from the start and as well as ongoing. Protecting privacy is going to be a huge one because this by nature is not private. AI connects to a cloud and to a server farm that sorts through tons of data and can displace teachers. Well, at this rate, we may actually have a lot more teacher replacement or supplementing with this. And it also provides some guidance here at the bottom. So your essay should provide a well-reasoned and balanced analysis of the potential benefits and drawbacks of using AI in education, and consider the considerations ethics needed to be taken into account when implementing AI in the classroom. So it was able to write a very clear, guided essay question about itself here. So this by itself is fascinating in the fact that it not only writes the question, but it provides writing prompts to the reader and also provides a possible set of answers. So what would normally take a teacher probably about 10-15 minutes to figure out what a good essay question would be and how to direct it, this one took about 2 minutes to write. The final test format that this GPT chat will write is a performance task. So you might have heard it called a station test or a skills test. And so I had it write one for fire drill. And if you do a fire drill, always check with your fire marshal or anything like and admin about the best way to do that. But here it has objectives, materials, instructions, and the assessment. So right here, this covers about 99% of what's needed in any lesson plan because it covers your instructions and assessments. Now, you'll have to add on state standards and everything like that later, and I'm actually going to play with that next. So I've gone through all the test formats that it has available, and it says that you could combine them all. So I'm going to give it probably the ultimate right here, where I have tests with the following 5 questions multiple choice about the parts of the atom, 5 true false about DNA, 5 questions matching about state of matter, 5 questions fill in the blank with random math problems, 5 questions short answer about biology, 1 essay about the history of tea, and 1 performance task about walking in the hallway. So I'll get my stopwatch here. Hit submit. So that took a minute and 2 seconds to write. However, it did not produce the answer key this time. And so I'll just have to write and the answer key. So I think in a minute 23, it did leave off a couple of, or left off the essay and performance task question, but I think I asked it to do a performance task that was kind of too short for it to really produce any meaning from. So let me try that again and come up with different, see what I. So I'm going to time this and really test this to the limit. I'm going to ask it to write a test with 5 questions, multiple choice about parts of the atom, 5 questions, true, false DNA, 5 questions, matching about states of matter, 5 questions, fill in the blank with random math problems, 5 questions, short answers about biology, 1 essay about the history of tea, and 1 performance test about food safety, and include the answer key to all. So 3, 2. So it does divide them into sections. 35 seconds. There's an error right there. And the answer key had to be a separate section. So it came out to 44 to write the test and most of the answers. It looks like I might have hit the limit either in text size or um, performance when it came to the performance task at the end. So I might just have, so if you're going to do an extensive one, you might just have to write in 2 or 3 responses. But 2 minute, just under 3 minutes to write a final test is incredible. Now, when it came to this one, I think I probably put in too much because when it came to the matching section, I think my content area talking about states of matter was just there's only 3 states of matter, and I asked for 5. So I think I caused an error here, which is why it gave me just some blank lines. I basically asked it for more questions than it understood there to be. Um, essay is in place. That looks good. Now, for the food safety, same thing. I was probably too ambiguous and too broad in talking about food safety. So if I wanted to tighten this up, say food safety of meat of beef handling or something. And I also had to type in and request the answer key to get all this. Now, I don't think I hit a size limit. There is not a character limit according to them, which I checked here. Um, I think with this test, it shows that it's a draft and that what you put in will determine what comes out. So if you ask a question that's too broad or not specific enough, it just doesn't have a lot to go on. So another question is what are the best way to write prompts for this? Now, this is a language model, so the better and more concise your language is, the better. This could be a difficult thing for some students, especially ELL second language students, or for times when you're not sure what your topic or prompt should be. So definitely be specific, define what you wanted to discuss, and include context or background information. This part I found is actually going to be more important, is that you do have to provide some context or background for the AI system to really get a better focus of what you want. It is totally possible to get uh, wrong answers if your prompt is not specific enough, or if you're just trying to shoot around and play around, might not get a very focused response. Now, the second one is going to probably be one of the more difficult parts for this, in that you have to use grammar and punctuation. Unfortunately, the more correct grammar and punctuation you have in this, the easier the AI can understand it. It does seem to have a good grasp of common typos and misspellings, but it's not perfect. And I've hit a couple issues where it's asked me to clarify. Grammar can help, but if you've noticed, I've actually written a lot of my prompts without question marks and punctuation. But I could see easily where if you don't have commas or periods to kind of end your thought, that might create too much of a run on for the AI to understand. Avoid ambiguity. So this is good for looking at a lot of academic things and more technical things. Trying to get weird ideas or more philosophical ideas, you're going to not get very concise or clear answers. And when it does that, it tends to, the ChatGPT, when it hits that kind of circumstance where it's too ambiguous, it tends to drop big long lists on you like this. And so if your answer has like 5 or 10 possible responses, it's too ambiguous for it to be focused. And so it just tries to give you the best list possible of what it has. Keep it simple. This applies in pretty much all of engineering and STEM. And keep straightforward language when writing prompts. And again, this just helps give a focused start from the beginning to give a more concise answer. Be concise, keep your prompts concise and to the point, as this will help language models process and respond more effectively. Um, this by far is probably one of the bigger things, is if your students like to use run-on sentences or rant and rave, or try and do something like uh, a Reddit response or anything like that, um, that's going to cause a lot of ambiguity and issues with the AI. So, what do I think about ChatGPT for educators? I think it's going to be an amazing tool. You could do a lot of amazing things in terms of drafting your lesson plans, drafting tests and assessments. You could use this as a quick search tool in class. So if you ever have students ask you a question you're not sure of, you could just hook this into an API or your LMS and have it answer questions quickly. You could have students do writing prompts with this, where either chat writes the prompt or gives you an example. You could write worksheets and assessments with this very quickly, and then incorporate it into your learning system. So you could have students write or do work from home, or if they're in ISS school suspension, they could do that. And there's lots of potential here for the teachers just to make some more bureaucratic things a lot quicker, or to save brain power on writing a lot of content. Now, kind of the downsides, this still isn't a perfect model by any means. There are multiple ways you could either not give it enough information or get errors from this. So you'll still have to review everything that ChatGPT puts out. Should students use this? Yes. Should students use it? Maybe. And you're going to have to watch out for students using ChatGPT to write things like essays or reports in the future, because this can probably get through a lot of cheat checking systems. Also in class, you're going to have to think about how you're going to use this. Really discuss that with your administrator and district legal before you even open this. Actually, I should. So if you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to play around with this more over the holidays, as well as see what I can do with Point E and generate three-dimensional models with text prompts just like this. Thank you.